Good morning, everyone. We are really excited to talk to you about what do you prioritize in your life? What is important to you? Uh, we weren't able to come on last week because Barbara didn't have internet because of all the storms. Her basement flooded. The rain came in the doggy door.
It was that good.
So she'll probably tell you about that during the show and everything. And my life is in flux. You'll probably hear the chickens, that you can tell I'm not in my normal studio. My normal studio has been taken over by 6 grandchildren and their mother for the time being. So I'm in my room and kind of hiding out. But you'll be hearing the barnyard as we go today. But I'm Carol Henderson with Life by Design Studio. So, and I keep wanting to rock, so I apologize if I'm going in and out of the screen. But I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Miss Barbara Ellison.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday Motivations. Yeah, I'm Barbara Ellison, founder of Wellness Playroom for the best version of you. And one of the things, it's that it is so many people, and the people that I work with, they're facing retirement and they're probably, they want to overcome stress. Their health is declining. They've got financial uncertainty, those kinds of things. And they're wondering what to do. Well, okay, so that brings us to our subject of the day is like, what are we prioritizing? So many people, I mean, we have been brought up in what my generation was anyways. We were brought up that if we do this, do that thing that we're going to do, come out of college and do that. And then once we do that, we're going to have this. And then once we have that, we will become this. Well, it doesn't work. Life doesn't work that way. It never really has, because we have to be who we're supposed to be first. God calls us to be who he has called us to be, whether it's a teacher or a laborer or an executive or a songwriter. He has called us to serve our purpose. So, but once we know who we are, to be who we're supposed to be, then we will do what we're supposed to be doing, whether it's write songs or teach children or, work with late career business professionals like I do. And then we'll have everything that we want or desire.
He puts those gifts and callings into us before birth. They are there. Go back and think, what did you dream about being when you grew up? What did you want to do? And so often that is your gift and calling. So often that is what will serve you well throughout your life. But we as adults have grown up and put that aside and done what was expected of us. Barbara's a prime example. She came from a large family and they expected her to be a certain way. No red lipstick, no red glasses, your hair a certain way, and definitely not short, and all of those things. And she tried a long time to fit into that box, but that's a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah. And didn't know any, and I had a loving family. I didn't know any different. I mean, was the way it was
until I said she was the odd man out.
I was just always a little bit odd. I was just a little bit different than the rest of the family. And yet until something wakes you up to it, you're perfectly happy. I had a happy childhood. I had a happy, life. Great kids, two husbands. But you know what? My husbands were the same as my family because that's what I was used to.
It was your comfort zone.
It was my comfort zone. And and there's nothing wrong with being in your comfort zone until it isn't. And when you realize that your comfort zone is not, you're not happy in your comfort zone, that's when you'll make the change. And that's when you will change your priorities. That's when you will take stock of those deep rooted beliefs that you've had since childhood. And they're so deep, sometimes but well, that's just the way I am. Well, yeah, but as a friend of ours says, you're not a tree. You can get up and move.
Yeah. Well, and
You know,
I
things
get
can
to see a
change.
real example of that right now, because I have 6 grandchildren here with me, and it has been a blast. But I mean, one is a dancer. I mean, she will even get on the sofa or the floor or whatever, and she'll twirl, and then she'll pose, and then she'll twirl the other way, and she'll pose. And you know, she is taken with Annie because she has curly hair, and she goes, "Oh, she's just like me," and so she's taken with that. And but she will probably be a worship dancer as she grows older. I mean, that is her gifting and talent. We have others that, you know, they are in other giftings and talents, and it's starting to manifest. And the twins are 2.5. The one that's the dancer is 3. She has a brother that's 4, a sister that just turned 6, and then Cohen, who we've had in our life a lot, because his mom passed, as I've talked about before, and he lived with us for a while. Because Aaron was on call. So he stayed here a lot, and they visited back and forth. And he's 9. So, I mean, I'm getting to see what God has placed in these little children, and just the way they act and react and such as that. It's been fun to watch. But it says in the word to raise up a child in the way he should go. And in the original, that means with their bents and leanings.
Exactly.
And
not the way
when
you
they are
see them.
old, they will not depart from it. They may depart for a while. And, you know, we noticed even with our boys for a while, they did, you know, kind of go out on their own thoughts, but they all came back. They all came back to how they were raised. I mean, they are 3 good men and love their families and such as that. So
yeah, I know.
very
One time I had a client, and that he was telling me all the things that he was doing, and I said, so, and he was in financial services, insurance and all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, but he was just telling me what he was doing. There was no emotion, there was no passion, it was just, he was just telling me what he was doing because it was his job. Key word there. It was his job. But it wasn't his passion. It wasn't what he was called to do. And I said to him, I said, well, if you weren't doing that, what do you think you would be doing? And he had to think about it for a second. He says, well, and then he said the words that Carol and I, we've already talked about this morning. As a kid, I always wanted to do this. And so I said to him, I said, so, all right, well, we're going to meet again in 2 weeks. What is one thing you can do to move the needle towards that? What's one thing that you could do? And then he finally thought about it, and he said, okay, I could do this. And I said, fine, whatever's in your comfort zone, and get your comfort zone, because he was still in his comfort zone right at that moment, because it was financial services was what he had always done. Well, he came back 2 weeks later. It was like he was a changed man. Because it was like I had given him permission to dream again, to go back to being how he was when he was a kid. Oh, well, 2 weeks after that, so like now it's been a month. And so I said to him, I said, so what does your wife think about all these changes you're making? And he looked me, because we were in screen like we are now. And he said, you know what, Barb, you've saved my marriage. Because he was happy. He was doing what he was called to be doing, totally outside of what his realm of thought was, because he was brought up to be, you know, because that was the family business and that's what he was doing. And it was just so, just touches your heart when somebody can really get past their fear of failure or fear of, but what's my family going to say?
And what's society going to say?
Or what's society going to say?
I had a lady I was visiting with the other day, and she and her husband had moved away, and she had an extremely good job and could support the family. And so she gave him permission, for lack of a better term. All the community was giving him things for homeless people. It was winter. They were bringing blankets and gloves and such as that. And he took a kind of a sabbatical and took time to go and feed the hungry, give them blankets if they need it, give, a couple he even bought tents for. And that nurtured his giving nature. And it was healing to him. He had had some trauma right before they moved that just rocked his world clear back to childhood and everything that's what somebody had done. And it healed him. But his love language is giving. And so if that's your love language, you're not going to be happy if you're taking and not giving. And everybody needs to give some, don't get me wrong. If you're just taking, whether it's money or gifts or whatever, you become a stagnant pond. We're blessed to be a blessing. So as things come in, they need to flow out. Somebody gives you blankets, we'll say, you need to go through and see what blankets you can give away, because you probably have what you need.
Right. That's what I was just at the health club yesterday. I went swimming after church, and it was so nice. But they've put up a display in the lobby of used sneakers. Heaven knows what they're going to do with them, but they're looking for used sneakers. And I went, well, now, you know what, Barbara, you're going to go home because you've got some used sneakers that are just sitting there. I'm going to go through my sneakers and pick up, and then when I go again tomorrow, I'm going to take them. Because it's like they're taking up room in my space. Why am I holding on to these? I will never wear them again.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so And now the Lions Club is looking for sneakers at the health club. And I'm like, well, okay, fine. Well, guess what? I'm going to have a little spot today to clean out my shoe area.
Yeah.
And just get rid of the ones, and then of course there's method to my madness. I was just thinking the other day, I really would like to get a new pair of walkers. Well, guess what? I'm going to give away my old ones and go buy myself a new pair.
Well, and
so it's two sides, it's like,
my husband's been real big on, like, he'll clean out his closet, but the way he cleans out is throw everything in a trash bag and put it out in our barn. So when the fires came and I was going through to see what we could give away, I found all these shoes. And I'm going, are you going to wear these? No, I never will. So it's like, okay. And there was a lot out there that the kids had brought. And, it's like, are you going to come to get these? Is this something you need? No, I don't. It was kind of just out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. And and that's what I have a basket of shoes that I'm not wearing. Oh, let's be honest with it. And they're kind of hidden away. Well, guess what? I'm going to go to is haul out that basket. And I think I'm just going to dump it out into a bag because I'm not wearing them and I haven't worn them in years. And you and I talked about it. Oh, when was it? Last week, the week before. That if you haven't worn something in 2 years, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it, and it just was like, oh, okay, fine. So it just, when I saw that display yesterday, it was like, okay, well, guess what? So that's one of the things I'm going to do today. And, because then you can be a blessing. So gives me permission to buy myself something new. But to give away all the pairs that I've still got. That for heaven, the thing was that I asked myself, Carol, why have I been holding on to them? They're not comfortable. Why am I holding on to them?
But they may be comfortable to somebody else.
I know, but why? But that's right, exactly. So why have I been holding on to these shoes that I know that I will never ever wear again? Why are they still here? Why didn't I give them away a year ago? Why do we hold on to things? I swear it's that scarcity mindset.
Mhm.
Oh,
Mhm.
because I have my stuff. Oh, but that's mine. And is that from the time we were in kindergarten? And it's like, but that's my toy. Barbara, let it
And there's
go.
also, if you've ever had a time of lack in your life, that it's
I've been there, done that.
may come back. People that lived through the Depression
Oh, yeah,
were very much that way because,
yeah.
in fact, my mom barely skirted it. I mean, she was there, but not in the, she wasn't
My
like
mom did.
sitting on the porch in the Dust Bowl or anything like
Yeah.
that. But, she had a saying, it's just make it do, wear it out, use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. And I'm like,
Right.
and so I grew up hearing that.
Hearing that.
I'm like, oh, I haven't gotten all my use out of that. I'll keep it so I can
Yeah.
use it.
Right. I might, like some of the t-shirts that I've got that are just old and just ugh. And it's like, oh, well, I'll wear them for grubbies. Oh, brother, something else will turn up as grubbies. And just it's like, Barbara, let it go.
Well, and I think, okay, the one thing we talked about before we started is how you prioritize.
Our priority,
It's to be God first,
right?
then your family, and then your job.
Right.
And I
And
think
then
sometimes when we hold on to things and we have that lack mindset, it's like, well, God may not come through this time. God may not provide what I want. And he's a good father. I mean, if you have your child and they really want something, are you going to figure out a way to provide it? I mean,
right.
if it's a Ferrari for an 18-year-old, that you may not try to
Yeah,
figure that out, but because that wouldn't be healthy. But for the most part, if your child wants something, you do what you can to give it to them. And our Father's the same way. So often things we want are things that may be detrimental to
yeah,
us.
not
Even
good for us, right?
adult. Yeah.
Because what happens, I think, so lots of times is that people get caught up into the comparison and competition.
Yes. Yes. Not to mention all the ads, and I'm going to say on TV, even though that's not where our life is now, but Facebook
Yeah.
ads and,
Oh,
YouTube ads
ads
and
and YouTube and TikTok and and
oh,
then
I want that. I have to have that.
that. Right. And so what happens is that we get caught in that scarcity mindset. But if I don't get it,
Mhm.
somebody else is going to think badly of me. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I do not need to. I do not feel the need to have certain brand names across my chest just to say that I've spent 75 or 100 or 200 or $500 on a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Or on
don't
your
need that.
glasses to have the little whatever Ralph Lauren or whatever is
Ralph,
now
yeah,
on the side of the glasses.
Foster Grants, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't need to have brand names.
Yeah.
Uh, and maybe that is part of poverty men's mindset. But you know what? Those are things. Like I remember one day, you're right now, my daughter, my granddaughter, her car's in the shop, so she's been driving my car a lot. And one day, a friend of mine said to me, she says, "Well, what if she has an accident?" I said, "Well, as long as she's not hurt, my car is a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing,
It's replaceable and you have insurance on it.
and it's replaceable, and that's why I pay for insurance."
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, but it's like, yeah, as long as she's not hurt,
You
I'm
have to walk through the getting a new car or getting yours
yeah,
repaired. Then
yeah,
neither one of you have a car for a few weeks. But
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah, if it's not a life,
It's
oh,
not, you're right, exactly. Because I think so often instead of prioritizing things, we get caught up in short-term focus.
mhm.
Oh, I'm just going to do this for now, just for right now.
Oh, yeah. And then 20 years later, you're looking oh, I hate this. I'm handcuffed here. I've told this.
Why am I
Yeah.
why am I
Started at the
doing
bank.
this?
and then could not leave for years because he was tied in. Wife, kids, expectations. He was in
Mortgage,
the hierarchy of the bank, and couldn't make that kind of money somewhere else. And so he stayed. Miserable, but he stayed.
Right. But he stayed because he wasn't willing to risk finding something else that was going to fulfill his purpose, God's purpose for his life.
Yeah.
And so much of that, of the lack of priority, the lack of getting caught in short-term focus, and it's all the thoughts that are right in here.
Yeah.
That negative self-talk. Well, what are people going to think? Well, what if I do that? Oh, I can't do that. Oh, but what if this happens?
Yeah. And oftentimes it's lack of trust.
And it's lack of trust.
It's lack of trust. And sometimes you can trace those things back to your childhood. Oh, I wanted this, I wanted this, I wanted this, and I never got it. Or they told me I was going to get this, or I thought I was going to get this, and I didn't. And so sometimes it can go back to that. And, that's something we need to be aware of.
Right. And they all fit. The thing is, though, they all fit together. Either they're a negative self-talk, short-term focus, getting into the comparison game. Oh, well, or that keep up with the Joneses.
And false expectations.
Fear of failure. Your banker friend, he feared failing at something else.
And what is failure? Do you see it as a bad thing, or is it that you failed forward?
Not.
I mean, look at us.
Failed forward.
Edison.
Exactly. Yeah. And that comes back down to what we started with. Are you prioritizing a deep-rooted belief that's negative, or a deep-rooted belief that's positive? And my very first post, I was reading a post from a friend of mine today, and she talked about spilling it. If you have a cup of coffee in your hand and somebody bumps you and you spill the coffee, well, what made you spill the coffee? Well, the answer was, oh, well, somebody bumped me. But no, that's not the right answer. It went on to saying that if you didn't have coffee in your cup, you would have spilled tea. If you had tea in your cup, you would have spilled tea or orange juice or whatever it was. And so life is like that, and we are the cup. What we fill ourselves with is what's going to spill over when something bumps us.
And how often do we blame someone else for us spilling?
For us spilling.
They made me do this. Well, they can't make you do anything. It's your choice.
Right.
It's your choice.
Well, they made me mad. Well, nobody can make you mad without your permission.
Yes. Yes.
And I think Eleanor Roosevelt said that. No one can make you feel anything without your permission, or paraphrasing it. I'll have to look up the exact quote, but I believe that was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. And it is absolutely so true. So back to our question of the day, what are you prioritizing in your life? Are you prioritizing the positive things, the gratitude, the vision? What
are your first thoughts of the morning?
Your happiness. Exactly. What are you? Because overcoming these negative things, the deep-rooted things, the comparison, it's a choice.
And so often it can come down to, how do you start your day? Do you start your day with some quiet time? Do you start your day with some scripture? And there's one other thing I want to say on the putting God first is in your finances. How many of you out there tithe your finances? Tithing is not, they say things are Old Testament, New Testament. It's just different contracts. Some of the law was fulfilled in the New Testament and the new covenant, new contract. But everybody still teaches tithe, or well, they don't all teach it, but tithing is still real. The feasts are still real. They're God's feasts. They're not Jewish feasts. They're God's feasts. They're his appointed times. But tithing puts up, when you give that first 10%, it protects all the rest. It puts God first. And there's your God, family, job. It'll protect your job. It'll cause you to increase if you tithe consistently, tithe cheerfully. You know, it's not a drudgery to do that, but that is a way of putting God first in your finances. So if you are short of money, don't think, oh, I have to have this for bills. You do that 10% and it will amaze you at how the 90% stretches. And I would love for you to put stories, put testimonies in our chat about that, because it is important. It is important. And so if you're not happy in that area of your life, there's one thing you can change that will cause a ripple effect through your life.
You know, and we're not saying that if you are destitute, if you are absolutely, there are times of grace also. When there are seasons in your life when you have, like I think Paul, it was like there were times of plenty and there were times of scarcity. In the times of plenty, if you have been faithful and given more and made offerings and do all of those things, I truly believe that there are some times in our lives when we do have a financial need. Oh, what am I going to do? Well, those times, that's where there's a little bit of grace. Lord, help.
And that will cover you.
And that will cover it.
But the beauty of the tithe is it's 10%. So if you make $100, it's $10. If you make $1 million, it's what, 1,000?
No, more than that.
100,000.
100,000.
So
math off the top of my head is not my strong
suit. So don't miss. If you make $5, it's 50 cents. So that part of it, I would say never miss. But then offerings on top of that. In fact, we have a guy that we used to follow. His name was Kim Clement, and he was saying, if you don't have money for an offering, because there's tithes and there's offerings. But he said, if you don't have money for an offering, do a $5 in your face. It will just totally go all over the face of the devil of, okay, devil, you're fighting me here. Here's $5, Lord.
Yeah, exactly.
Get him. Exactly. And it is true. It is true. So
I have to admit, there have been times in my life where it's like, how did these bills get paid?
Yes,
how did this happen?
And it miraculously, money will show up, or someone will give you a gift, or it will be taken off of your bill. Years ago, Keith went in and had a heart attack. It was unexpected. It was in 2000, I think it was. And just one hospital visit was over 18,000 for one portion of it. Not, that was just the room, 18,000. And then there were doctors and anesthesia, all the up and up and up.
Yeah.
But anyway, the hospital, just out of grace, wiped out $18,000 off our bill. I was like, but that we were tithers, we were givers.
Right. Exactly.
And so it's not always that maybe you're going to have $1 million dropped in your account.
No.
But there are ways, there are ways that he can stretch it. He can do things, and he will if you're tithing. So
anyway. And there were times that I'm gonna tell on me for a second. What is it? 2 years ago, Carol and we were driving to St. George. Not sure exactly what happened, but there was a mix-up in my bank. And I was like, there's me in Texas, no money to get home on gas, with gas. Don't even, and now we got it all straightened out, but at the time it was like,
but it couldn't be straightened out from here.
But it couldn't be straightened out from Texas.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, what are we going to do? Well, it's like Carol said, well, let's do this.
And she had cash. The thing is, she had cash, but there were some things that required
a credit card.
So
And it was just the funniest thing. But you know what? I got home, and now 2 years later, I mean, it's just fun.
Yeah.
Now I laugh about it.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like, ugh. But you know what? God is good.
It's very good. That is very good.
But anyway, so that's what so back to our original questions. What are you prioritizing in your life?
Yeah.
Are you prioritizing?
Are you in his will? If you're not, you know, Barbara was in his will going to St. George. So he provided. He provided and he worked it out.
Even though we didn't have air conditioning going through the desert.
When it was cold and rainy, we had great air conditioning. It got hot and dry.
Anything over 75, my air conditioner didn't work. And there we were.
And through the desert and across all the reservations, it was kind of warm.
It was a little toasty.
Yeah, over 100.
We laughed. It was just because there was
we sort of laughed then because it was so ridiculous. You know, it's like you can cry or laugh about it, and we finally just thought this is hilarious.
This is hilarious.
And then another time stopped in 4 different times because it was, what was that, 2001 or 2, and they were still doing all kinds of lockdowns on the reservations. And from here to St. George, there's probably about 10 reservations you drive across. I mean, there were some tribes I was unfamiliar with, and we would pull in, and we were not allowed to go into restrooms.
Yeah.
At one time, 4 stops in one.
We were in the
able to go to the restroom and stuff. Yeah.
One of them had no water. One of them we couldn't use the bathrooms. One of them had no gas. And what was the other one? I can't remember what the other one was.
You finally went in a restaurant, didn't you?
And we were like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But it just was. It
was ridiculously funny.
Yeah. And we just laughed. So anyway, so are you prioritizing laughter today? Do something that will make you laugh. I don't care if you have to turn on a blooper show.
Yeah.
Do something that will make you laugh.
Mm-hmm. And if you're feeling ill, laughter is good medicine.
Good medicine. So all right.
Anyway, y'all know the drill. Click the thumbs up, share with your friends. And if you're watching later on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell so you know when I've put up something on YouTube, and tell your friends and do the thumbs up there, because that'll change the algorithms and show us to more people. So anyway, it's great. We're glad we have internet this morning. We're glad we're not flooded this morning. We, with all the internet issues everybody's been having, including the flyers. Yeah. So y'all have a good time.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye. See you next time.